This is a sleep program tracker that I developed based on research that I've looked at and also my own practice, which involves my own publications of research. This is how I've organized it to help my patients, make sure we're addressing all the areas that they might benefit from in their sleep programming. So what I'll do is I'll go through each one of these columns. If some of these don't apply, so let's say, for example, weighted blanket, no way, it's summertime, they're not going to use it. You can just delete this. Okay, and then it just minimizes how many things they have to check off each day, okay? So day one would be, so let's say you are seeing them today, day one would be tomorrow, so that would be from the night before. So tomorrow morning, they're gonna check all these boxes from tonight about what they did, okay? So they'll say, okay, I kept my bedroom under 65 degrees, and make sure they understand what dark means, like no light. If you have to wear eye covers, do it. Quiet means quiet, like no extra sounds, no cats clawing under your doors. I know kitty cats are very problematic. Bed is for sleeping and intimacy only. That it's really important to explain that, our body needs to understand that when we are in bed, we're sleeping, or it is for intimate reasons only. Those are the only two things we do in our bedroom, or in our bed. Using earplugs or white noise. Some research actually has recently shown that maybe white noise isn't so good for adults. It reduces some parts of sleep quality. If white noise helps you sleep better, then do it. If white noise isn't helping you, then don't do it. I think the study showed that white noise reduces REM by a few minutes, but if you're not sleeping because of noises in your environment, then you're going to have reduced sleep anyway. So this is, again, something that you can choose to go over your patients with based on the most up-to-date evidence. White noise, a lot of research has showed has helped, okay? Earplugs are better than white noise, which is also what this recent study showed, but whatever works for your patients. Minimal clothing for sleeping. I'm talking nothing, underwear only. If you're cold, maybe put on some socks, but I would say that that's it. Because what happens is when you have extra clothing on, it twists on you while you're sleeping, which can wake you up, keep you from regulating your body temperature the way you need to. So have your patients sleep with as little clothing on as possible. Cotton bedding. This means cotton sheets, cotton blankets, cotton pillowcases. You want to be able to have breathability. There's research going on right now just based on how temperature is regulated at night and how it affects our sleep. It is a very important part of our sleep, so we need to be making sure we're able to wick moisture away appropriately. Some people wake up really hot, especially women, for example, going through menopause. They might have hot flashes. Something you can advise them to do is to keep a cold pack under the pillow. And when they wake up sweating, they flip the pillow over. It's nice and cool. It helps them go back to sleep. Having the same sleep and wake time daily, this is something I might start with. And just basic, go to bed at 10, get up at 6. It depends on the situation. If somebody has severe insomnia, we might go right to time in bed restriction hours. But generally, sometimes just getting people on the exact same go to sleep, exact same wake time is enough to get them to have improved sleep. Time in bed restriction hours is where you are basing the hours they are allowed to be in their beds sleeping based on their baseline sleep. So let's say they right now have an average sleep efficiency score of 50% or 60%. So they're laying in bed for 8 hours, but they're only sleeping 4 to 5 hours of that 8 hours. They're up all the time. So then maybe we want to start with 5.5 or 6 hours. So that would be they go to bed at 12 p.m. and they get up at 6 a.m. every single day, no matter what happens, that's what we do. We're not sleeping outside of those times. But, time in bed restriction hours can be very effective, but you have to get that buy-in from your patients, and you have to review the evidence for that, because it's really hard for people to do that. It feels really scary for people. It feels scary because they feel like, as much opportunity as I want to give my body. So I want to go to bed at 9 and just try and get up at 6, but that just doesn't work because your body has not made the correct association with sleep. Definitely start with the same wake time first. So if they usually get up around 7, let's start at 7 for their wake up time. It's easier to get people to kind of stay up late and get up at the same time. So it's also recommended to not go below 5.5 hours of sleep restriction. If the person's going to be traveling a lot, this might not be a safe intervention for them at this time if it's going to make them really sleepy. But at the same time, you got to think about, if they're only averaging 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night as it is, then, let's try the 5.5 or let's try the 6 hours. So no caffeine or nicotine 8 hours before bed. I've read literature that says caffeine can stay in your system up to 12 hours. So I just tell people, no caffeine after noon. Have your morning coffee. Don't have anything past 12 p.m. Creating a relaxing sleep ritual. Chamomile tea can be very helpful for winding down. A lot of people report really good results from chamomile tea. There also is a little bit of research on that, on how it's calming for your brain. It can't hurt to try, right? So, and then doing stretching, some light yoga, things like that. Turning off screens at least an hour before bed. I myself have lived with insomnia, but I also, have a long day and I want to relax at night. The most I've personally been able to really stick to is 45 minutes, and that's been enough for me. But really try and challenge your patients to do an hour if they can. Keep the daytime routine the same. What that means is that even though they're tired, because maybe we're doing this time in bed restriction hours, they're not sleeping, do not cancel plans. Don't not go to the dinner at your friend's house because you're tired. Don't not exercise because you're tired. Keep your routines, what you had planned, the same no matter what, because that is going to make you even more tired so that you can sleep better that next night. Exercise type and duration. This might give some insight into, when I go hiking, I sleep better the next day. When I do a hard workout in the morning, first thing, I sleep better that night. Some people struggle with having a hard time going to sleep if they've done vigorous exercise less than an hour before bedtime. Some people, it doesn't make a difference. So that is kind of patient dependent. Getting outside late morning, usually I say sometime between 10 and 11, even just 15 minutes, to allow that melatonin production to occur. Eating healthy, that one's pretty obvious, but avoiding sugary drinks and just eating as healthy as we can. Your patients might need more information on that. That is within our scope to provide help with creating a healthy eating routine. Some behavioral strategies are getting up after 20 to 30 minutes if they're not sleeping. So while we don't want people to be watching the clock, and that's on there, avoiding watching the clock, if they feel like they've been laying in bed for a while, turn the clock around, see what time it is. If it's been 20 or 30 minutes, go ahead and get up, go to a different room if possible. If it's not possible, maybe sit in a chair in your bedroom. And then with some low light, read a book, do a crossword, something boring, no screens. When you feel tired, you go back to bed and you try it again. If after 20 or 30 minutes you're still not sleeping, get up, go try that again. Sometimes for me personally, it might take me doing that 2 or 3 times before I can get back to sleep when I'm really having a hard, night with insomnia. Avoiding naps. That's going to mess up our sleep, right? Like if we're sleeping at off times when we're not supposed to sleep, then our body doesn't know that it's time to sleep when we need to sleep. If they do absolutely, cannot keep their eyes open, 15-minute, 30-minute nap early in the day, but really try and, have your patients not nap at all. A hot bath or shower 1 to 2 hours before bedtime can help, because as your body cools, again, with that temperature regulation, your body thinks it's time for sleep. Setting a bedtime alarm, if you have a hard time with going to bed at the same time every night, setting an alarm might help. Even setting it like somewhere where you can't just turn it off, it can be even more helpful, because you get up, you're like, okay, well, I might as well get ready for bed and go to bed like I'm supposed to. Practicing mindfulness, this is where we are just focusing on breathing in for 5 seconds, breathing out for 6 seconds, counting those seconds, thinking about our comfortable bed and our soft pillow. That's it. Basic mindfulness thoughts, okay? Now, it is hard to practice mindfulness if you have a bunch of stuff swimming around in your mind. So having a notebook next to your bed, have your patients just anything. For me, I just have even just my crossword book that I can jot things down in if I'm not sleeping. And again, that might take a couple times. Sometimes I'll jot these things down that are on my mind that I can't sleep because of, and then I lay back down and I'm like, oh gosh, I got to remember to do that tomorrow. And then I'll get back up, write that down, and then I'll lay back down. I'll be like, oh man, I've also got to do this. And then once you have all of that off your mind onto paper, your brain doesn't have to worry about remembering to worry about that thing tomorrow, or it doesn't have to remember this to-do list, because we should be sleeping at night. We shouldn't be worrying, thinking about tomorrow, thinking about today. Those things need to get off our brain somehow. A great way to do that is to just jot it down on a piece of paper next to your bed. After you do that, you can practice that mindfulness. Some of us also, I know when I used to have insomnia, to be honest, I would just cry. Like, it was so stressful not being able to sleep. So having these positive and realistic reminders that you can calm yourself down allows you to have some control of the situation. So what's the worst thing that could happen if I don't get enough sleep tonight? I'm going to be tired tomorrow, right? You've been tired before. It's not the end of the world. You're going to be okay. The most realistic outcome of not getting enough sleep, you're tired. You have to have another coffee. You don't eat as well the next day sometimes when you're not sleeping, So the most realistic outcome is you're not going to feel great, but you're going to be okay. I've not slept well in the past, and I've made it through okay, even if I wasn't comfortable. So yeah, you might be uncomfortable, but you're still going to be okay. Some of the advantages of not being able to sleep, oh my gosh, now I get to read that book I've been wanting to read. I get to work on my crossword puzzle. Sometimes, I've been in a place where I try all the things and I just cannot get to sleep. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I am going to get some work done. I had planned on getting this work done in the morning after I woke up, but you know what? It's not going to happen now because I'm not sleeping, so I might as well do it now. And although I know I said no screens, if the night is over and you got to do some work on your computer to feel better, do it, Just because I'm not sleeping tonight doesn't mean I will never sleep well again, right? That's true, right? Tonight is not reflective. You don't know the future. You don't know what you're going to sleep like tomorrow. And in fact, because you didn't get enough sleep tonight, it's more likely you're going to sleep better tomorrow. And then feel thankful for your ability to have a comfortable bed and a place to rest. And understand that even though you're not sleeping, your body is at least getting some rest. Sometimes that can be really comforting for me when I'm laying there not sleeping and I just think about, you know what? At least I'm getting some rest. I'm in a comfortable position. My body is relaxed. And be thankful for that and know that that's helpful too. Even if you're not sleeping, just to rest there is good for our bodies. So, and our minds. And then here we have the total hours slept over hours laid in bed. That is that time in bed calculation, and that's what you get the sleep efficiency score from. So let's say you're doing time in bed restriction hours, and let's say you plan to do 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. every single night. That would mean that down here, every single one of these should be 6 hours. If it's not, then your patient is not being compliant with the sleep restriction hours, and you need to problem solve why they're not doing it. Do they need more education on why it's important? Do they need to change the hours? Did something happen with their routine that you need to adjust to help them make this happen? And then above here would be how many hours they slept. So maybe one night they slept about 5. Again, this is going to be an estimation because you don't know exactly when you go to sleep. Some people have a better understanding because they have like a, Apple Watch or whatever that can time it, but it's going to be a general estimation. So they're going to estimate about 5 hours, about 4 hours, about 6, and then you divide the total top by the total bottom, okay? And that's how you get your sleep efficiency score. At least 80% is when you can step up the sleep restriction hours. So if your patient for 7 days in a row has an 80% average sleep efficiency score for the week, then you can increase that time by 30 minutes. Generally, you go backwards from the time they went to sleep. So if they had 80% sleep efficiency for the 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. time, then this week they can do 11:30 to 6 a.m.